Good. It's nice to be by the ocean, isn't it? It's nice. So, where are you from? Oh my gosh, he's from Nebraska. It's really nice. Okay, great. I'm very excited to present the findings of this research. This is going to be kind of a different keynote because usually keynotes are either super motivational in nature or they are funny, etc. But this one is really very data-driven. It's still going to be extremely interesting to you, and it is going to be motivating. But this is hardcore research that you as members and your organization receive that is going to help you grow your business. And as Richard said, everybody is going to get a copy of this presentation. All these slides that I'm going to share with you, you're going to get a copy. I've seen some of you with your notes out and your iPads getting ready to take some notes. You can take notes, but on the actual slides that you're going to see here, you don't need to. You can just relax and drink your Bailey's and Irish cream there or whatever you got. And you're going to get a copy of this. In addition to the actual slides that we're going to share with you, there's a full executive summary that is, I don't know, 15, 20 pages long that goes into greater detail than just slides can. So again, you as members, this is your research that was done for you to benefit your businesses, and you will get a copy of all of this so that you can read it at your leisure, familiarize yourself with it as well. And then the other thing before we get rolling that I wanted to say too is that at 10:30 this morning, my associate Liliana and I, she was the lead researcher on this project, she and I are going to be doing the session that's called Deeper Dive. There's 3 concurrent sessions this morning. Ours is the one that's called Deeper Dive. So if you're intrigued by this, and you're like, wow, but I've got questions, I want to know a little bit more about it, this isn't necessarily the place to take those questions, but the Deeper Dive is. It's going to be a more informal conversation, and we're going to share even more depth. So there's multiple opportunities to get this information here, in the executive summary, and in the Deeper Dive session at 10:30. I realize you have to make a choice with the concurrent sessions, and you can only be in one place, but if you want to learn a little bit more, that's what we're going to be doing there. And again, it's going to be more of a discussion, lots of Q&A. So let's get rolling. What the background is, as Richard said, is we were asked by APRO to conduct primary research. Primary research means that we conduct it. We're not just getting a white paper from somebody else and going, okay, I read somebody else's study. We created our own study. Primary research for APRO to determine the openness and receptivity of Hispanics and millennials, your 2, what I call high potential prospects. This is low-hanging fruit. Many of you have made the Hispanic market your core business, but many of you are also struggling with millennials. And these are the 2 high opportunity markets because millennials are the fastest growing homeowners and young people starting out and building their households. And everybody knows, because the media likes to hype this, that they're strapped for money. So there's a huge opportunity there with lack of credit, as well as the fact that they're just starting getting going in their lives and establishing households. And then Hispanics, for reasons that I'll get into in just a moment. But these are the 2 high potential groups that we talk to. Now, we did focus groups. There's 2 primary ways of doing research. One is surveys, that's called quantitative, where you're getting a ton of information, and what that gives you is patterns, right? 80% of people eat chicken 3 times a week or more. You know, 40% of RTO customers think XYZ, whatever it might be. That's quantitative, that's surveys. Those are really, really helpful because they give you massive amounts of data regarding patterns. What it doesn't give you is the conversation that goes behind it, which is why. Why do people feel how they feel? Why are there barriers? What holds them back? What do they like? What do they not like? That's called qualitative. And so what we did with focus groups was this qualitative research where we talked to people for 2 hours all across the country every time we did a focus group. That's a lot of insight and a lot of consumer perceptions. I even have video clips in this presentation that I will share with you so you can hear their comments yourselves. So we did 2 types of groups though. The first one that we did was an online focus group because we wanted to get geographic spread. We wanted to make sure that we were talking to people all over the country. And with the use of online technology, we were able to do this. We were able to basically get people to Skype in to a focus group from all over the country, but with both Hispanics and millennials. And then additionally, we did 10 in-person focus groups in 5 markets: Tampa, Atlanta, Columbus, St. Louis, and Dallas. Why these 5? Because these 5 represent the greatest volume of APRO members and rent-to-own stores. We wanted to make sure that we were hitting the markets where we have the greatest representation, not only of physical store locations, but of APRO members, to research where our members are actually working. So these are the markets that we tested in. And again, we did 10 focus groups, 5 each for Hispanics and 5 each for millennials. Now, just again, here's a map that kind of shows you, but this is regarding the Hispanic focus groups. I want to spend just a moment talking about unacculturated versus acculturated. A quick show of hands, and this is, there's no fear here. This is the no shame zone, and no fear, just truth. How many of you are familiar with the term acculturated or unacculturated when it comes to Hispanics? Anybody know those terms? How about assimilated or unassimilated? Anybody know those terms? Okay. So let me take 2 minutes and just quickly explain what we mean by acculturated or unacculturated. Because with the Hispanic population, especially when we get into linguistic differences, whether they speak Spanish, whether they're bilingual, or whether they speak English, we are talking about a level of acculturation. Acculturation and assimilation is often used to be synonymous with this. They're almost the same thing, okay? So acculturation, assimilation. Basically what we mean by that is, how Americanized are you, for lack of a better word, all right? So someone who is foreign-born, who has only been in the United States for a brief period of time, let's say 5 years or less, and is Spanish dominant, and they live in a high-density Hispanic part of town, and they work among other Hispanics, live among other Hispanics, shop among other Hispanics, socialize with other Hispanics, they are going to tend to hold their traditional values to them, and they tend to be what we call unacculturated. They are unacculturated to the U.S. mainstream American way of life and language. Does that make sense? On the other end of the spectrum would be the acculturated Hispanic. The acculturated Hispanic, imagine this, the person who is born in San Antonio and they are a 5th-generation Hispanic. Their great-great-great-great-grandparents immigrated from some other Latin American country. All right? They speak English, they've gone to school here, they grew up here, everybody that they know is just like them. That would be a very acculturated Hispanic. Does that make sense? And in the middle is that partially acculturated bilingual Hispanic. It was very important for us to test across the board. We didn't want to just talk to unacculturated recent arrivals, nor did we want to just talk to acculturated Hispanics. We wanted to make sure that we got a spread. So as you can see here, in Columbus, our focus group was on very acculturated Hispanics, and that was also the case in St. Louis. Why? Because in those markets, that's actually who the Hispanic market is. The Hispanic market tends to be far more acculturated in those markets than unacculturated. We find unacculturated Hispanics more densely concentrated in the South, like Houston, Dallas, Florida, etc. Okay, gateway markets for immigration, etc. So you can see here in Dallas, we chose unacculturated, and Tampa, we chose unacculturated. That was where the sweet spot was with the population that we were surveying and focus grouping. And in Atlanta, it was a blend. We had both unacculturated and acculturated Hispanics. So does this make sense? Everybody okay with this before I move off of this? I want to make sure everybody's understanding this. All right. So we got a good spread there. Furthermore, the purpose of the focus groups was to explore 8 key areas. We had 2 hours with each of these groups. And in these 2 hours, we went in depth in key areas such as shopping behaviors, financing preferences, and unaided impressions of rent-to-own. Unaided means exactly what it sounds like. When I ask you, tell me about your perceptions of rent-to-own, I don't help you with that definition. If you're drawing a blank, I just sit there and let you be blank. It's unaided. We want to know without any help what they know, what they don't know, what they think, what they perceive, rightly or wrongly, unaided. And then, after we got unaided perceptions and unaided responses, then the moderator in the focus group would also provide our rent-to-own definition and explain key characteristics and then test that again. So then we had the aided impressions and the receptivity to rent-to-own. In other words, for example, let's say you in the green shirt there, let's say I said, tell me what you think of when you think of rent-to-own. That would be unaided. And he would go, I don't know. I don't even know what you're talking about. Okay, what if I tell you that rent-to-own means, and I started to explain it, that would be aided. So in both cases, we found what people were unaided and what their perceptions were, and then we helped them along if they were struggling with what rent-to-own is and then asked what they thought of that. We also tested their receptivity to some key things like 90 days same as cash, early purchase option, payment reinstatement rights, and free delivery and repairs. Which of these are key triggers? Which of these mean the most to them? Do they mean anything? We wanted to test it all. In number 6, I'm very excited to talk about this, and I'll be covering this in depth in just a little bit. This comparison table. Have you seen this? Have you seen this comparison table? If you take nothing away from this presentation today, you need to take this away. If I was in the rent-to-own business and I was going to go back to the office and do one thing differently on Monday morning, I would be figuring out how to use this chart in point-of-sale materials and all marketing materials. And I'm going to spend a little bit more time on this in just a moment. But this comparison chart, you know, as you can see, it lines up the benefits of rent-to-own versus credit card, retail, and Craigslist. And this was a game changer in every single focus group. It was the most powerful tool I've ever seen. The reaction that we got from people was unbelievable. Suddenly it crystallized for them where rent-to-own lives and what the consumer benefits are in a way that no amount of explaining could do. So again, I'm going to share with you a little bit more, and you're going to see for yourself the reaction in the focus group clips that I'm going to show you. But this was a powerful tool. We tested this. We had no idea when we were testing it that we were going to get the reaction that we were going to get, but we were just trying to use it and kind of go, is this a helpful tool? And then, holy smokes, the reaction blew us away. And then ways that rent-to-own dealers can effectively reach these two targets, Hispanics and millennials, and lastly, their media usage habits. So these are the things that we tested, and this is what I'm going to share with you. So, what did we learn? Well, let's start with the bad news. And you guys have heard this before. I'm not telling you anything that you haven't heard before, but some of these negative perceptions still exist. There were negative perceptions of RTO. The recurring negative perceptions were that it's extremely expensive. Now again, these are perceptions. Rightly or wrongly, accurate or inaccurate, fairly or unfairly, this is what people think. And you have to understand where people are coming from before you can figure out how to adjust marketing and how to adjust perception. So we have to start with what is. So they felt that the total price of the items considerably exceeds retail and then can be the equivalent of several times a competitive purchase price. So this is like the key negative. They also felt that merchandise is used. Now you know and I know that it's not, but their perception is that all you guys sell is used stuff. This is helpful. It's helpful to know this because this is easily counteracted in marketing pieces, easily. They also felt that the merchandise was of lower quality. Like not only is it used, but it's not any kind of a brand name that I know. It's not going to be, anything that I would want. And that it's not a brand name, and that the items available are going to be sort of like last season or the last iteration. If it's electronics, it's not the latest and greatest. It's not the newest. It's kind of, it's kind of dated. That's their perception. They also feel that RTO stores are not as nice as regular stores, and that the associates who work in your stores are not as professional as many retail store associates are. They also, many of them thought that RTO would negatively affect credit, especially if you don't complete an agreement. Again, you know and I know that that's not the case, but this is a very important insight because if this is what their perception is, we can correct that perception. Only people with bad credit or who are in financial trouble use this particular service, RTO. And only people in temporary situations use RTO, such as a job in a different city. Like one guy was talking about, yeah, I can see where this would fit if you're going to go be a seasonal worker in North Dakota and you're going to go up there and work on oil and gas and your contract with this company lasts for 4 months, then this makes sense. But for other people, no, it doesn't make sense for real people with real stable jobs. So these are the perceptions. There's no surprises here, right? You guys have heard all this before? Yep. You address it every day. Additionally, the challenge with millennials had an additional challenge, and that is that they are extremely image conscious. Extremely image conscious. They want to do things that are fashionable. They also want to do things that their friends do, and they don't want to do anything that their friends don't do. Their negative perceptions were particularly damaging. If one person in a focus group with millennials said something negative, then they were all like, oh yeah, me too. I mean, nobody wants to be the person who's out there kind of going, that's not true. They're incredibly influenced by their friends. Liliana, who you're going to meet in the deep dive session, our lead researcher on this project, was telling me in one of the focus groups, I believe it was Tampa, where she said that she was literally standing next to a young woman, and they did an exercise with index cards where they were supposed to write down their top reasons why they would be interested in RTO. Okay, so they're just supposed to write it down. So this woman, because she's sitting right next to Liliana, who's the moderator, writes down bad credit. And then they all go around they go around the room, and Liliana said, please share. And she said, I don't think this woman knew that I was going to ask her to share. So she starts going around the room, and other people are like, better financing, this, that, monthly or weekly payments, monthly payments, whatever. And all of a sudden, this woman, she like literally surreptitiously grabs her pencil and starts scratching out bad credit and changing her answer. And Liliana's comment to me was, I really think she changed her answer based on the peer pressure in the room. And all of her peers, her millennial peers, were responding with different responses, and she didn't want to be the only one who basically was saying, I have bad credit. So she changed her answer. She literally she cheated. All right? So the point is, she cheated not because of anything other than the fact that her peers, even though those people were strangers, it mattered to her what they thought of her. So this is a huge deal. Even if they find the overall concept appealing, they are reluctant to be associated with this type of purchase. And some of it is because of the negative stigma that they have heard. Some of it is because of lack of familiarity. Yes, sir? Excellent question. He's not Mike, so let me repeat. His question is, what age is millennials? 18 to 35. Okay? 18 to 35 is millennials. And then 36 to 50 is Gen X. And then we go into the boomers. Okay? Excellent question. Thank you for clarifying. So, the reason we like the millennials from a sweet spot standpoint is, again, they're 18 to 35, they're adults, they're making it on their own, or they're living on their own, but they're not exactly making major money yet, and yet they're setting up their households, and so it's a perfect sweet spot. So, this is why education is key. One of the key things that we learned in this entire exercise is that you have a product and a service that people need, but they don't know they need it. You have to tell them that they need it, and you have to tell them why. So to successfully reach new targets and entice them to consider rent-to-own, it is imperative that the industry counter these perceptions. Because those perceptions, like I said, accurately or inaccurately, fairly or unfairly, rightly or wrongly, they are what they are. I always say as a marketing professional, we are not about dealing with the world the way we want the world to be. We are about dealing with the world the way the world is. So we have to start with understanding what we're facing from a marketing challenge and then work to correct that. So the millennials, because again, it's all about making sure that it's okay to do this, to shop this way, they recommended rebranding. This was their recommendation. They were, when we educated them about RTO, they were like, okay, I get it. I understand how this could fit into my life, but you guys have got to call it something else. Or you got to like get over the stigma of this. I mean, they were telling us this. They were like, this is not your mom's rent to own. This is a different animal than what I thought. So again, I'm not saying that this is an easy thing, but it's a simple concept to understand, is that we need to repackage this for millennials. So let me show you a video clip. My caveat with these video clips is, again, we did 10 focus groups in 5 different cities. The audio quality from facility to facility varies a little bit, and it was even affected by whether the air conditioning unit, in the facility was on and all that kind of stuff. So the ones in English, the comments in English are going to be clear. I will recap for you what they said, and the ones in Spanish are subtitled, and you'll just have to read fast, and then I'll recap what they said. But let's take a listen to what the millennials said about rebranding and changing perceptions.
But I would like to see them say, hey, we're rebranding. And do it on the Today Show, or do it on something where it gets publicity, and where, well, what are they doing now? I see that as being more beneficial to me than I would like the commercial where the dude is a cartoon character. So, yeah. Tell me.
Like, we recognize that we need to, change that.
Yeah, hey, I have respect for them now. I'll buy their pizza now.
So what do you think rent-to-own stores will need to do to attract your business? What could they do?
And have to undo all the years of the stigma that they have with them. I don't know how to do that, but I think that, this is going to sound bad, but those were the stores where you don't go there.
Yeah, they have to reinforce their brand to be better.
Make it cool.
Okay, I know that was a little difficult to hear. You saw 2 clips. Let me tell you what the first one basically said, is they were saying, what would you do to get the perception out there and change the perception? And the first woman said, put it on Good Morning America. In other words, let people know, okay? That was just her default thing. And I'm not suggesting that we're going to do that, but what she's saying is let people know what RTO is and what it's about and what it's not. Start a campaign. Put it on Good Morning America and educate people. The second clip that you saw was Liliana's voice saying in the background, what would you do to change the perception? And the woman said, tell people that it's not the stigma that they think it is. And then the last guy, you heard him say, make it cool, right? They don't want to do anything that's not cool. If you think about an Apple store, that's where they want to be. They want to be in a cool store. They want to be doing cool things, and they want their friends to think they're cool. So that was the first clip. Another thing that we came across and that we are recommending is that you consider using the words with millennials, ready to own, instead of rent to own. Rent to own is fine. There's nothing wrong with it, but it comes with some baggage. Ready to own doesn't come with any baggage. Ready to own actually means what it sounds like to millennials. Okay, I want this, I want it now. This is a way for me to get it right now. And look at what doesn't come with it. I get free delivery, I get this and that, all these things. Wow, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to own. So this is something I'm going to come back to in a moment, but these are very powerful words, and we think that you should consider using this with millennials. It gets around the rent-to-own stigma. Now, the other thing that we learned, and I know you know this, but this was important too, is as it's all about growing your business, is that not everyone is your potential customer. You are all successful because you are dealing with a core customer group. But to grow your business, you know you have to expand beyond that core customer group. You have to get the people that you're not getting, and you could be. So we started to look at, well, could we inch up a little bit on the income, elevate rent to own, and kind of go after people who are just a little bit outside of our normal core audience. And what we found is, not really. A little bit, but not really. We have to target the right people. So the majority of participants, when asked about their impressions of rent to own, they voiced many negative expectations. However, when we educated them, when we actually walked them through this stuff, 1 potato, 2 potato, and truly gave them facts, then it changed their minds. And we talked about that with the actual definition of rent to own. Also gave them key triggers like 90 days same as cash, the early purchase option, etc. And that comparison table that I showed you, which I'm going to show you again. Those were powerful things that made them rethink that and go, huh, okay. So when we did that, though, the first focus groups that we did were the online focus groups. We had a higher household income, and what we found is that it didn't matter what we did there, their receptivity to this didn't change. They were like, I don't care. You can talk to me all day long till you're blue in the face about this, and I don't care. I'm not going to shop that way. I don't care. However, when we did the in-person focus groups, we found that this was tremendously different. The receptivity completely changed. When we educated the people in person, they were like, okay, now you have my attention, tell me more. So what made the difference? Well, the original criteria that we started with, again, the thought was, you are all successful dealing with the people that you're already dealing with. How do we take that core circle and just edge it out a little bit? How do we expand that a little bit? So we had an original income top level threshold of $70,000. I understand that your core household income, not personal income, your core household income for most of you is between 40 and 50. We thought, well, let's see if we take it up to 70,000 what we get. And we didn't really factor in how people perceive their credit standing or their financial habits. This is where we got slammed in online focus groups. When we had this criteria, it was like, doesn't matter what we say, we could be handing out bricks of gold, and they're like, I'm not going. I'm not going to an RTO store. I don't care about this. So then we realized we're talking to the wrong people. We're talking to the wrong people. And this is important to know from a research standpoint, because You, as individual retailers, if you are talking to the wrong people, you are going to spend an awful lot of money trying to get a little bit of traction, right? The ROI is not there. That's not where you want to be. It's very important to understand who is your customer, but who's not your customer. So what made the difference? We adjusted the criteria from there. We learned something key, and we were like, okay, that's too high. Let's drop that income level to 60, which is still higher than most of you are actually targeting on a day-to-day basis. And let's also make sure that we're talking to people who self-assess themselves as having credit that's not excellent. You know, my credit's okay, or maybe my credit's not that great, but it's certainly not excellent. And they had to have a preference for paying in installments. Okay, so do you see the difference? And can you imagine what a difference this would make? This made all the difference in the world. When we adjusted this criteria and then we explained RTO to these people, they went, I'm in. Tell me more. Where's that store? That's the sweet spot. So it's very important to know who your customer is and who it isn't. And a strong online presence is absolutely imperative. It's important because most consumers, Hispanic or non-Hispanic, millennial, non-millennial, anybody, most consumers start their purchase cycle by going online. And millennials are more likely to start their purchase cycle online. And this should make sense to you. If you're 18 to 35 years old, you were born with a smartphone in your hand, you don't know how to do anything else. And acculturated Hispanics, again, acculturated means more English dominant, more tech savvy, more assimilated. Acculturated Hispanics also use the internet to gather information. Less acculturated, unacculturated Hispanics still tend to go to their friends and their social networks to find out, what are you doing, where did you go, etc. So let's take a look at this clip about shopping online.
I go online and I can like price check and like read reviews of other people and see what they say about products.
Okay.
That pretty much, it's pretty much the same thing.
The internet. What's this internet?
Internet search for me, mostly. Google.
Everybody loves Google.
To the internet, specifically for the TVs or something.
You first go online.
Online first, yeah. Well, I look it online first.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it is online, but looking for style and then the best price for it.
Yeah, and that was going to be my point, is that I go for, like the converse, I go for cost, and then I look for what I'm looking, or,
Right.
you know, what I want to get.
Say online first. You went to a store.
You can see it in person and then go online and check, compare prices or whatever.
If it's furniture, I rather go to the store first and then go online.
Yeah.
But if it's a TV or something else, I go online first.
Typically what I do is type it into a Google search and see what pops up, and on Amazon too.
Online.
I guess I Google.
Yeah, just Google, yeah. Everybody?
Yeah, same thing. I would Google it.
Yeah, I would say Google and price match. Okay, so hands for people who start at Google.
Okay, so it's pretty clear. I know that some of the audio on that is a little muffled, especially the first one. The guy basically said, what I do is I go online first, and then if I like something, then I'll go to a store and check it out. So imagine, you know, looking for a TV and then wanting to go to Best Buy and look at it in person, et cetera. And then it was pretty clear, I think, from all the rest of them, various iterations of Google, 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 Google. You know, I mean, she was asking, where do you go? They said online, on internet, et cetera. And then she probed a little bit further and said, well, where do you start? Google, Google, Google. And I'm sure you guys know this. Maybe you don't. But there's, you know how like when you're texting or in any kind of messaging, there's the abbreviation, you know, LOL for laugh out loud, or, you know, BTW, by the way, or BRB, be right back, or whatever. Do you know that the new one is GTS? Google that stuff, except they don't mean stuff. So, like literally, it's like got its own little acronym now, right? So it's just like, you know, I don't know, GTS, Google that stuff. So the point is, everybody is going to Google, and that's why search is so important. And we're going to talk a little bit about search engine optimization, because no one is going to buy anything from anybody unless they've done their research, but particularly millennials. So let's talk a little bit about online behavior. They start with a search engine such as Google. Some of them use Yahoo, et cetera, but they start with a search engine when they're interested in buying something. Then they may go to retailer websites, or they also may go to retailer websites. This isn't necessarily linear, like I first do this and then I do this, but many of them do. They go to those retailer websites. They go to, let's say, bestbuy.com. They will also go to sites for reviews. They will go check out Consumer Reports, right? Now they know they want this TV. They know that it's in stock at Best Buy, et cetera, and they're going to check it out and look at different review sites, you know, whether it's Yelp, whether it's, you know, like I said, Consumer Reports. And even those who start searching at a store, a physical store, ultimately say that they will go back home and research the products that they like before they purchase. So they wander into a store, they see that flat screen that they like, they're thinking, wow, that looks great, the price is okay, whatever. I'm going to go home and read the reviews. I'm going to do a little bit more research before I pull the trigger. This should come as no surprise. I'm betting that most of you in this room kind of do the same thing. We all do the same thing, especially when it comes to major purchases. So when we're looking online, where does that lead them? It leads them to a search, right? You go to Google and you put in a search. So how many of you know, well, are you familiar with the terms organic search versus paid search? Do you know these terms at all? Anybody? Okay. Let me explain very quickly. There's two types of search. There's organic and paid. And organic is what it sounds like. When you are searching, what does that search yield? Paid search is something that you, as retailers, and any other company or brand, can manipulate. And you can actually bring your search engine rankings up there. But the thing is, consumers can tell the difference. They can tell the difference between an organic search and a paid search. And they mostly ignore the paid search. It's ads. It's ads, and they know it's ads. And so they're like, I'd rather just do my own search. So search engine optimization is going to be key. It always has been key, but let me show you why. Well, let's actually look at a clip first, and then I'll show you an example of paid search versus organic.
And what about if you actually are searching for food here, for shoes on Google? The ads that come in there, did you pay attention to those?
No, I don't.
You mean the Google sponsored ads, like the?
Yes, the one on top and the ones on the side.
No.
Being influenced by, for example, the ads on Google when you search and things like that. Is that something that has been effective in reaching you? I accidentally clicked on the sponsored link. Yeah.
So again, I know that second one in particular was a little hard to hear. What Liliana's question to them was, how do you search and what do you see? And they said, oh, we see ads. And she said, well, do you pay attention to them? And in the first clip, they said, no, they're ads. And in the second clip, she was saying, no, you know, I'd really rather like to get beyond the ads and actually get to the search information. So let me show you what a Google page looks like. You guys all know this. You've seen this kind of thing. This is typed in the words baseball cards. Okay, so we typed into baseball cards on Google search, and what search engine optimization is, SEO, is the process of lifting your information to the, quote, top of the page, right? It's kind of like reading the newspaper. You're not going to read, you know, 5 pages in, you're going to scan the headlines. So you want to be as high up on that list. When you look at a Google page, it'll always show you, you know, page 1 of 125,000 pages. Do you think anybody's going to go to page 19? No way. They're going to start at the top, and they're going to look at the top things. Now, what's in yellow there is sort of an L-shaped, a backwards L-shaped yellow there. That's paid search. You've seen this. It'll actually say the words ad at the top, right? You've seen this. And then what's in the green box, we've highlighted, that's organic search. It's pretty clear to tell when you're on Google what's an organic search and what's a paid search post. So people don't like to click on the paid search stuff. They know it's an ad. And in fact, I believe the other thing that woman said in the last clip that was a little bit muffled is she said, I used to click on those until I realized what they were. She doesn't want an ad. She's looking for information, not an ad, right? So now is this clear to you what the difference between paid and organic is? All right. The other thing that's a really big factor is the store experience. The store experience is still a huge factor with all groups, and even those who did most of their research online are actually likely to purchase higher value household goods at a store. People want to go see the product. Even if they've done all the research online, they just want to go see it, they want to feel it, look at it, touch it, talk to somebody. Unacculturated Hispanics are also more likely to start and finish their process in a store. Unacculturated Hispanics are the one group that do not necessarily start their search online. They will actually go to a store, look at products, and buy them, etc. But that store experience is key for all groups. So let's take a look at a couple of clips about the store experience.
What I'd like to start doing is just kind of start at the beginning. When you decide that you need that new TV or, or a sofa or something like that, what is the first thing that you do?
I start shopping. I just don't do anything else. I start going to furniture stores, I just start looking around.
Walk-ins at the actual store and looking at different store prices. Also, I think I go to store first.
How do you usually make these type of purchases?
Store.
Like go online first and then go to the store, because you could like negotiate at the store maybe, as opposed to a computer.
Well, and you can just, especially if it's going to go in your home, if it's furniture, you want to see it in person. And you can never really tell from a photo what the quality is until you see the actual materials.
Sometimes even the color of the furniture as well.
Yes.
In some of the groups, the conversation was centered around electronics. In other groups, the conversation was centered around furniture. One of the things, again, people are like lemmings. They follow. So one of the things we found is that if one person said, well, let's say I want a couch, then boom, the entire conversation got focused on furniture for about 20 minutes, and we had to kind of get them to think broader than that. Or if one person said flat screen television, then it seemed sort of like stuck on electronics. But regardless, what you saw here and what you heard here was people saying, I go to the store. The one guy said, I want to check out the merchandise, and then that's where I'm going to negotiate. And then the woman said, yeah, a picture only tells you so much. I want to go and see the product, look at the quality, especially if it's something like furniture, okay? So again, that store experience is a key part of their process, and it is a process. They go online first, and ultimately they come to your store. So what happens when they come to your store? What about the ideal sales associate behavior? Participants indicated, again, all participants, whether they were Hispanic or millennials, that they would like to be greeted at the door and have an associate offer help as needed. They prefer that the associate does not hover over them. They want their interactions to be with the products, and they'll ask for help if they need it. And they will definitely ask for help when they are considered purchasing. They like to get help when they have any questions, but again, they want it to be on their terms. They want your people to say, hi, welcome to XYZ. Is there anything in particular I can help you with? And if they go, no, I'm just looking or whatever, then back off. Just, be around, but don't be hovering. They feel claustrophobic that way. Hispanics were more open to having interaction with the salesperson. Again, often have, especially unacculturated Hispanics, may have more questions and may need more hand-holding and more knowledge. And for unacculturated Hispanics, having someone who understands the language and respects the culture is key. No surprises there, right? How many of you have someone on staff who can speak Spanish? Is that person an asset every single day? Are those people an asset every single day? How about a language other than Spanish, Chinese or anything like that? Anybody have any other languages spoken other than Spanish or English? No? Millennials are more likely to want to be left alone. Again, millennials are do-it-yourselfers. They feel knowledgeable and they feel in control. They have already done all their research that's brought them to your door, and then they want to be left alone. They'll ask for help if they need it. So let's talk about the ideal sales associate behavior and listen to a clip.
Just, greeting, let me know if you need help. Then let me peruse by myself when I find something, and you're there to, answer any questions about it. I don't like them to babysit you throughout the whole process. That's really annoying to me.
And I hate when they're pushy. I like to have my time when I walk to the store. I don't want anybody to be all over me, asking me. I have to take my time to walk and see everything. Yeah.
Sometimes we're salespeople, leave me alone. And I get to make all the decisions myself without pressure.
So the woman, the second clip I think was most important, where she said, I like to go to a store and take my time. I don't want anybody pressuring me. I don't want anybody following me or hassling me. I just want to be able to take my time and look. So I think that's the takeaway, is be there, but one step removed. Also, it's important to know that the good news is, I've given you a lot of bad news. The good news is the right people become open to rent to own with the right information. But as I said, it's about the right people. When we started targeting people who make $70,000 household income, those were not the right people. They were not interested, no matter what we said. But when we are talking to the right people, we do find that the door is open for us. So, education about rent-to-own is essential. Many participants in the focus groups said that they were responding favorably to it once they understood it. And what they understood was a comprehensive definition, that comparison message table, which compares rent-to-own benefits against credit, retail, and Craigslist, and then also options such as 90 days same as cash and the payment reinstatement options. These are triggers. These are hot buttons in a very, very positive way.
If this
So let's
is
take a
true
look at
for a place
education.
like Aaron, they have to do a good job on changing people's perception,
Yes.
because that is not the perception that I think most Americans,
Yes.
Hispanics,
Oh,
legal or illegal, have of that particular brand, unfortunately.
Publicidad. No han oído de ellos. No es cuestión de escuchar, es de que puedan explicar. Porque no es vender el producto en una página de periódico, es que te orienten más allá de... Claro, porque uno sepa los beneficios. Si está con esa publicidad y teniendo ese conocimiento, uno dice, bueno, pues esa es una buena opción. Me voy para allá. Yo no sabía mucho de esos beneficios. Yo tampoco.
So, I know that those are subtitled and those subtitles go by very fast, but the first group was in English, and that was millennials, and the woman said, you guys need to advertise and tell people and educate us about this because I don't think that people know what the real facts are. And then we went to the Spanish clips that were subtitled, and essentially, hopefully what you saw there, I know those subtitles go by pretty fast because people talk fast, but essentially what they were saying is, you guys need to advertise these benefits. You need to tell us this and educate us. And they were saying, I didn't know about this. And one guy goes, me neither. This is great. This is fantastic. I mean, they're very receptive to this, but they don't know what they don't know. Positive response to the definition. The key points when we talk about the definition of rent to own, and the way that you've been selling may be fine for you, but this is what we found were the key points. Talk about, literally, these are your talking points. It is a rental first. That resonated with them. They like that. There is no legal debt that is incurred. Return the product without any penalty. Credit is never extended. Therefore, your credit can never take a hit. Most products are new and name brand products. You get to choose how you want to pay, weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly. And the typical RTO agreements are for a year, 18 months, or 2 years. You're not locked into 5 years. These were huge benefits. And literally, if you use this checklist in your marketing pieces, however you want to frame this, you are going to grow your business. There was also, as I mentioned, this is the third or fourth time I've mentioned this comparison table, but it really did blow us away. And the simplicity of this information is, I think, why it works. When you just lay it out and let people absorb it, they truly, truly understand. Their logic and their rational brain takes over. So this is the chart. And if you haven't got this chart, you can get this chart from APRO. And I can't recommend strongly enough, based on the reaction that we saw to this chart, that you need to make this chart if you don't have this. You need to make it as point of sale in your store. You need to make it as flyers. You need to put it on your website. You need to do anything and everything to put this chart just like this. I wouldn't change a single word. The work is done for you. Boom, just replicate this. This was powerful and this was key. This changed minds. I mean, who's not going to respond to this when they see all the things that they get with rent to own and things like Craigslist, don't give that to them, or a credit card or a retail store? But don't take my word for it. Let's watch some reactions to this comparison chart. And what we did here is, this is toward the end of the focus groups where they've now kind of understood what rent to own is. And Liliana said, let me show you a chart and tell me what you think of this. And she just let them talk. So I think we have it in both English and Spanish here. The Spanish one is like everybody talking at once. So the subtitle there is just sort of like people kind of going, wah! All right, so they're like doing it, you're going to totally get the enthusiasm. They kind of go crazy.
When you look at it like this, side by side, are you more inclined to try rent to own?
Yes,
Yeah.
I would try.
I would try it.
I'm more interested. I'm probably gonna go home and like look it up and see what is this all about, and look at like compare, I don't know, things that I've bought in the past and what if I could have done rent to own with my TV. I don't know. It sounds good.
Viendo esta comparación, ¿les parece este alquiler con opción de compra más atractivo?
Definitivamente que sí.
O sea, el rojo, perfecto. Siempre es de danger, pero ahí se ve perfecto.
I mean, I've honestly never really considered it, but now I'm actually thinking about it for like a couch or like a leather chair or something like that, honestly.
Does this make you more likely to consider rent-to-own?
Yes.
So the bottom line is, millennials said, this is helpful. One guy said, yeah, I wish I could have known about this before. And then, this is great. I would do this. Yes, this would change my mind. Yes, this would make me look at this. I've never looked at it this way before. And then with Hispanics, I mean, you saw in the subtitling where they said, looking at it side by side like this looks perfect. Doesn't get any better than that. So same as cash options, very, very receptive to 90 days, same as cash. And that receptivity increased even more when we bumped that to 180 days, same as cash. So again, from a messaging standpoint, you are all retailers. What do you take away from this, and what do you go back and do on Monday morning? You start talking about that comparison chart, and you start pushing things like 90 days, same as cash, and 180 days, same as cash. And the payment reinstatement rights, that's a good incentive to try rent-to-own. People in the focus groups basically said, I never knew anything about this. The idea of pausing my agreement sounds really flexible and really appealing. Now, some of them were concerned about the fact that that meant that they wouldn't be with the item during that time. That's kind of logical, you know, but that means I wouldn't be without my washer and dryer for a month. But our point is, since your industry has been stigmatized in the past, one of the ways to counter that is to give people information. If they are looking and exploring rent-to-own and this payment reinstatement rights is a positive trigger, then one of the things you just want to make sure of is that people really understand that if you pause it, obviously you're not with those products for that period of time. Maybe this is useful to you, maybe it's not. What if you're a military person and you're deployed for 4 months? This would be a great thing to use. It's not for everybody, but people like this. They just need to understand it. It's all about full disclosure. Nobody likes surprises. Brand names, new and in stock. Remember at the very beginning when I said their perception is that you have used stuff? They were surprised that you have new stuff. It's a huge plus, and it was a surprise to them. They expected only those used items, and they expected only non-brand name items. They were delighted when they learned that they could get the name brand products that they like in new condition. And Hispanics especially are extremely open to the rent-to-own concept. Once they were educated and understood what it is, this is not a concept that is all that familiar in Latin America. So if you're an unacculturated Hispanic and you're new to the United States, this is a totally new shopping paradigm. You have to be educated about it. So particularly unacculturated Hispanics, walk them through this. 1 potato, 2 potato. Don't assume that they know, because they don't. So this is the unacculturated Hispanics' reaction to the comparison chart. The subtitles go by very, very quickly, but as I said, you're going to kind of see them go ape over this or hear them go ape, and I think in all languages it translates to unbridled enthusiasm.
Ay, qué linda.
I mean, did you hear that? They were laughing. They were positively giddy. Where is this? I need to go. God bless you, they said. That is unbridled enthusiasm. That is untapped potential. The unacculturated Hispanic consumers, what are their customer service needs? This should go without saying, and it's not going to surprise any of you. They stated that having someone who speaks Spanish to them is very important to them. Of course it's important to them. They're unacculturated Hispanics. English is going to be their second language. They're never going to be as comfortable in English as they are in Spanish. My mom lives in Mexico, and she's lived there for 30 years. She speaks Spanish, but it's not her first language. I promise you that even after 30 years, and the fact that she's fluent in Spanish, if given the choice to do a transaction in English, she'll take it every single time because she 100% understands English, whereas she 80% understands Spanish. So it's no different the other way. They want someone who also understands and respects their culture, who might be patient with them as they have more questions than you're used to. So wrapping up, what do we recommend that you do with this information? First of all, has it been helpful? Okay. Was there any surprises here? Or is it stuff you already knew or stuff you sort of surmised? Surprises? How many had some sort of surprising stuff? Okay. Validation of what you already knew. Okay. All right. So recommendations going forward. Things to know and things to do. Because sometimes things are just things you should know. Other times there's things you should do. One of the things that you should know and do is understand that a good internet presence is a necessity. I talked about how every single group starts their process by shopping online. So you as retailers need to maintain an effective online presence with your company website and invest in search engine optimization. They don't like those paid ads. They don't like paid search. So the only way to get your search, your store and your company up there on organic search is to boost it through search engine optimization. And the way to do that is to link with other authority sites. So shoprto.com is one way to do that. You can link with expert information on ShopRTO, and it will boost your own store's search. Now we're going to go into a little bit more deep dive on this in the second session. But this is a really great thing for you to do because it's a low-cost, no-cost proposition. People are going to be going to outside authority sites and looking for articles, helpful information, tips or whatever, and then if you're linked to that, you get the benefit of that. You're going to get more deep dive, and you can also get with APRO for more information on how to do this. Education is also key in marketing for both millennials and Hispanics. It didn't matter whether we were talking to one or the other. Everybody basically wants to understand and be informed about how RTO works. So the helpful hot buttons are that credit is not extended, there is no legal debt. I mean, again, with Hispanics who are struggling with either no debt or no credit or poor credit, this is a key. And same thing with millennials. Millennials, many of them have credit, but it's trashed. It's trashed. And so they are in the process of repairing their credit, or they have hugely damaged credit. So this is a huge button for them. They were like, wow, I can do this and it's clean. Products available are new, not used. The products available, again, are brand names. There's no penalty for returning a product. And communicate clearly the benefits of the RTO agreement, utilizing, again, that rent-to-own comparison chart. Of all the things that we tested, that was the thing that surprised us the most. I don't know what we were expecting to find, but we were not expecting the enthusiastic reception that that chart got, and the simplicity of that is so powerful. And the words ready to own don't carry the stigma of rent to own. So I would start exploring that. And in fact, APRO's even looking at that too. I mean, on their home web page for shoprto.com, they're using the term ready to own right now, and they're using it because it works. And isn't ready to own a really positive message? I'm ready to own. Aren't you ready to own? Let's go. Let's do this. Show me how. Also, target unacculturated Hispanics. This target is a sweet spot for you. They were extremely enthusiastic about RTO once they understood it and how it works. Maintain a modern look store. You heard from the millennials themselves when they said, it's got to be cool, right? It's got to be cool. So the store has to be cool. That look and that feel of the store is extremely important. They are extremely image conscious. Where they go is cool. They want their friends to know that they're cool. Everything that they do reflects on them. So you can also apply APRO's ideal store recommendations here. You've all seen this, right? You've seen this at past conferences and you've seen the model. This is what the ideal store model looks like. You can apply some of these principles here, and APRO can give you much more information on how to do this. But this is strongly encouraged, not only because it's progressive and it's modern, but now we know it's important to consumers. They care about this. This isn't just nice packaging and nice decoration and nice frosting. This works. So join us, please, at 10:30 this morning for the deeper dive session. Many of you said that this was helpful. This is going to be the place where you're going to get to have more insight into this, and we'll be able to discuss and answer any questions that you have. Again, I hope this has been very, very helpful. I want to thank APRO for doing this research, and let's give APRO a hand for doing this research because you get to benefit from that. Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. Liliana and I will be around all morning long, and again, please join us at 10:30 for the deep dive. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.